ready to go? And what, have we got it?
You are live.
Thank you. We're live. If we could come to order, I believe Councilor Chavez is joining us remotely, is that correct? Okay, great. In that case, I will gavel us into order. Let's begin. It's now, by my clock, 5:05 p.m. on August the 10th, 2022. We're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilor Rivera. Salute to the New Mexico flag led by Councilor Cassett. Invocation and remembrances initially brought through Councilor Lindell. So please rise as you are able.
God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Anyone wish to remember anyone at this time in particular? I'll raise, if anyone wants to speak, please just raise your hand and I'll call on you. Let's take a minute to remember the lives lost in Albuquerque in the Muslim community and hope for peace and healing there and here, and remember those we've lost recently and in the past because of COVID or other tragedies, and pray for healing for them and their families. Take a minute. Thank you, everybody. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Mayor Weber?
Present.
Councilor Cassett? Here. Councilor Chavez?
Here.
Councilor Lee Garcia?
Present.
Councilor Michael Garcia?
Present.
Councilor Lindell?
Here.
Councilor Romero Worth?
Here.
Councilor Rivera?
Here.
Councilwoman Villarreal?
Present.
You have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you. Could I get a motion to approve the agenda unless, Madam Clerk, there are changes that we are not aware of at this time? The agenda.
Mayor, to the agenda, no. We will have amendments to the consent agenda.
To consent, of course. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda then, please?
Move to approve.
Second.
I've got a motion to approve from Councilwoman Villarreal, a second from Councilor Cassett. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, could you please, oh, it's a voice vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Oh, there you go. Thank you for weighing in. Is there a 2-second time delay? Apparently not. Okay. I was talking to you, Councilor Chavez. You were about one beat off from the rest of us, but that's good. No worries. In that case, let's move to the consent agenda. And I think, Madam Clerk, you have a list of some of the items that have been taken off of consent.
Yes, Mayor. We had several items pulled for discussion. Item B was pulled by Councilor Lindell. Item G was pulled by Councilor Rivera and Councilor Cassett. Item I was pulled by Councilor Garcia, and item F was pulled by Councilor Garcia and Councilor Lindell.
Move to approve as amended.
Second.
There's a motion to approve as amended. Is there any discussion? If not, Madam Clerk, this is a roll call vote. Please call the roll.
Councilor Cassett? Yes. Councilor Chavez?
Yes.
Councilor Lee Garcia?
Yes.
Councilor Michael Garcia?
Yes.
Councilor Lindell?
Yes.
Councilor Rivera?
Yes.
Councilor Romero Worth?
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal?
Yes.
Mayor Weber?
Yes.
Motion has been approved.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, could you take us to the next item on the agenda, please?
Yes, Mayor. The next item on the agenda is presentations, and we do have a presentation for fiscal year 21 audit update by Ricky Bajarano, our interim assistant finance director.
Thank you. Yes, sir, you have the floor.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. With regard to the audit contract for FY ending 6/30/21, the contract is signed. It was delivered, I think last time I reported out, we had uploaded it to the state auditor's office. They had a couple of corrections they wanted, which I completed, and sign-offs happened today. The mayor signed the contract just before the meeting this evening, so thank you very much, Mayor. We did receive permission from the state auditor's office to go ahead and contract for the fiscal year 22 audit. So the audits will be going simultaneously to the greatest extent possible, which should cut back on the time. And we're still pushing to be on time for the 22. And we implemented year-end closes. The year-end close this year, for the first time, we were on time. First time since 2019, we've actually closed out the fiscal year on the Munis system. That's a huge achievement by the accounting department. And for the first time in 3 years, month-end closes have begun with July. We're in the process of closing out the month on July, so we are very quickly getting up to date and on time. As soon as we get these audits behind us, we'll actually be right on time with our schedule. With that, I stand for questions.
Thank you, sir. Are there questions about either the on-time closes, which are really quite important, or any other work that's gone forward? Councilor Rivera.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Bajarano, with the month-out closes, I know in the past, closeouts have usually taken about a week. Does that in any way disrupt services from happening at the ground level, I guess, or at the...
Mr. Mayor, council members, Councilor Rivera, it does create some delays as if things are submitted by the departments late, then they may have to wait until the close is done. Because we can't have anything pending with the close. There can be, for example, journal entries or invoices pending, so we have to clear them out before we can close the month. But it shouldn't cause any extraordinary delays. The delays usually come with year-end closes when you're trying to get everything into the June and also get it into the right fiscal year. So I think as we start closing out months, keep bearing in mind that we haven't closed on a monthly basis for 3 years. It's like anything else. It's like a muscle. You have to develop it, and we'll get better as we go along. This one has actually gone very well. So month-end closes should become very easy. Year-end closes will always, every entity I've ever worked with, they're a bear.
What's the time frame for the monthly closeout?
For July, it will be August 12th. We're shooting for around the 10th of the month following the month.
So no purchase orders or no procurement from what time to what time?
Well, it will delay, we'll still be able to do procurements in the current month, but once we nail down that close for July, then nothing can happen at that point forward. During this time that we are entering things, but it might be 1 to 2 days that something can't be processed.
Okay. And what happens if something's procured in July, but the work isn't complete until August or September?
Then, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Rivera, then at that point, if it's a month-end close, there's really not a significant difference. It basically will go in August. We follow what's called a modified accrual basis throughout the year. So at that point, it becomes on a cash basis. So the bill, let's say something was procured, it doesn't get billed, or the work doesn't get done till the 31st of July. don't get the bill until August 15th. The bill will go in August 15th. The goal here, I just want to mention, the reason month-end closes are so critical is that not closing out months, it keeps us from issuing interim financial statements. And that's our goal. We've got to get to the point where we can give you actual information as quickly as possible. The further out we go, the less relevant it becomes.
Thank you. Good luck.
Isn't it also, let me just jump on board because I think Councilor Rivera is touching on an important element of our improvement program. The way you get a timely year-end close is by having timely month-end closes. If you wait for the entire end of the year before you attempt to bring all your numbers into alignment, the task is overwhelming. If you do it month by month, by the time you get to the end of the year, your ducks are in a row and you've got a much more manageable year-end close that makes the audit much more likely to be timely.
Mr. Mayor, council, members of the council, that's absolutely correct. And the most important thing is that we can correct errors as we go along. Otherwise, they pile up. We can have up to 1,000 general journal entries, and if you wait till the end of the year, then it becomes that much more difficult. And the other thing is, people might leave. People forget what happened. You're in July, trying to remember what happened last July. Any number of things. So that's absolutely correct.
And just to add one other thought, it's a little bit like doing your studying all year long rather than waiting to cram for the exam. You may pass the exam, but you're really not running a very methodical, disciplined approach to getting the audit material prepared.
Mr. Mayor, that is absolutely correct. The other thing is, because we haven't closed out in 3 years, it is causing some consternation amongst staff because they're not used to doing this process. But this is something that the whole world does if you have your accounting shop in order.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Councilor Garcia. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Bajarano, for the update. I think a couple meetings ago, maybe during June, I had asked about an update from Pinon Ventures, just given that their contract was about to end, and part of the deliverables was a report. Do you know if the report was ever turned in to us? Just that way we can learn better, because I think one of the main duties of Pinon Ventures was to help coordinate the fiscal year 21 audit, and I'd like to learn more from the report in regards to what coordination was done, anything that a report can help me learn better in regards to their involvement with the fiscal year 21 audit.
Mr. Mayor, council members, Councilor Garcia, I believe a draft has been issued, and we're waiting for finalization of the report.
Okay. Can we see the draft, or is it we've got to wait till full clearance for the draft to be approved? And if we've got to wait for full clearance, do we anticipate when it will be marked as final?
Once it's finalized, it is a public report.
Okay. Do we have a time frame when that might be available?
I believe it's being worked on now and should be available, I would anticipate, by next Finance Committee meeting.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. No other questions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sure. Councilor Mayor Worth.
Thank you, Mayor. And good evening, Mr. Bajarano. Just want to say, I want to underscore what you said, because it's the first time that we have closed the fiscal year on time in 3 years, and it's the first time we are closing using our new system, correct?
Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Romero Worth, that's correct.
And I just want to congratulate you, because I think that is a really big deal, and I think I want to note for my colleagues and for the public what a big deal that is. And it's going to help us do a lot of things. We're also, you said, closing, we're now in fiscal year 23, and we have closed or we're this week in the process of closing the first month of our new fiscal year. And I just want to underscore what an important piece of work that is in terms of keeping us on track. Correct?
Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you very much. That is absolutely correct.
And I as chair of the Finance Committee, one of the reasons why this is very important, not only just in getting our audits in on time and also making our end-of-year closes easier if we're doing the work month by month, as you point out, is that I want the Finance Committee to be able to look at financial statements and budgets to actuals in real time. That is a really important part of our oversight around our budget and around how money is spent. And so I just want to, again, take a moment and recognize the significance of this and the implications of what we will be able to do now that we will have information coming in real time. This is very important, and I just, again, want to congratulate you and also take a moment to talk about how important these steps are. And I know it's been hard, and I want to underscore for everybody in the city how important it is that this work continue and that we get in the habit of doing it.
Thank you.
And I think that's all I have for now. I'll have some other stuff later. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Others? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Madam Clerk, I believe the next is the first item taken from consent.
You are correct. The first item is item B. It's request for approval of award of ITB 22-44-B to purchase two wheel loaders from Power Screening LLC in the total amount of $663,000 for the City of Santa Fe's Wastewater Management Division. I also want to note that this is also a request for approval of a budget adjustment resolution in the amount of $663,000 from the wastewater management cash balance.
Okay, I would entertain a motion and then turn it over to Councilor Lindell to take the floor. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Lindell, you asked to address this issue, so you have the floor.
Is anybody here to address this? I apologize that I had to pull this tonight. It got away from me at finance. So in the packet on this, it talks about that these front-end loaders are used on-site at the compost facility. And I have to be honest, I didn't even know that we had a compost facility. How old are the current machines that we have?
I could not tell you
Okay.
at this time. I just started with the wastewater management division in October. They were there when I got there.
That's good. I'm glad we didn't wear them out between October and now. So here's my concern, that we're spending $660,000 on two pieces of machinery. And I ask about this composting program, and I understand that our revenue stream from that every year is about $30,000. And that bothers me that we want to spend $660,000 on two front-end loaders for a program that returns us $30,000 a year. It's awfully hard for me to support that. And, I mean, two seems impossible. How about one? I can't make sense of why we would do this.
Ma'am, the purpose of the compost facility isn't to generate income. The purpose of the compost facility is to dispose of the sludge that's produced during the treatment of wastewater. Our choices are to compost or to haul to the landfill, where we'll pay a tipping fee for each truckload that we bring there. So we're saving money by composting.
Do we not have any private enterprises that would want to do this program?
As far as generating the compost? Not that I'm aware of, ma'am. You're speaking like under contract term where we would provide the sludge and they would generate it.
Could you speak into the mic, please?
I assume what you're referring to is where, under contract, a contractor would then take our sludge and convert it into compost. I'm not aware of any company that does that. Most wastewater treatment facilities that do composting, they compost their own sludge as a method for disposal.
Okay, maybe we could come up with, you say that it saves us money. Maybe we could come up with what the real savings on this is, what the difference in running this facility is, and do some kind of a cost-benefit analysis of it, as opposed to, as you said, paying tipping fees. As it stands now, it just seems like this is a wildly expensive program.
I believe that was done during the planning process prior to the construction of the compost facility.
I haven't seen that. So if you have that, if you could get that to me, that would be terrific. Thank you.
I will.
Any other questions? Councilor Rivera.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Heerbrand. So we use some of the sludge for composting. What do we do with the remnants that we don't use for the composting? Where do they go currently?
Previously, we had a permit with the Department of Environment, New Mexico, to apply it to the land. We have withdrawn that permit, so now we have two choices to dispose of the sludge: take it to a landfill or compost it. We're trying to maximize our composting facility at this point because it's much more economical to compost it and sell it as a product than it is to take it to the landfill.
We used to dispose of the sludge on the airport property. We're not doing that anymore. So is it going to this landfill or a different landfill?
We have several landfills that we can utilize.
Okay. And my understanding is Bernalillo or Rio Rancho was one of them?
Yes, sir.
And it's also my understanding that that contract or that agreement was going to end soon?
Right now, we don't have an agreement with the landfill.
With
We're going through the process right now of applying with the state for a new disposal management plan. So that's being finalized now. We cannot contract with the landfills until we have an approved plan.
All right. So I believe there's only certain landfills that will accept it currently, and they're much further out than probably 60 miles is my understanding. So
Acacia is approved to receive sludge,
who's that?
the local landfill here.
Oh, Caja. Okay. Have they agreed to do it, though? Do we know?
Once again, we need an approved plan from the state first.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Yes, Councilor Cassidy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Heerbrand, for being here tonight. Aside from an economic benefit of composting versus just going straight to the landfill, are there any other specifically environmental benefits for us using the composting plant as opposed to simply putting sludge in a landfill?
Yes, ma'am. By composting, we're turning a waste product into a renewable resource, which can be used throughout the city and is used throughout the city, as well as by NMDOT on some of their construction projects. Otherwise, we would be competing with limited spaces at the local landfills.
Yeah, I think that's one of the key components too, is that this isn't just there is the economic component to consider, but there is also this environmental aspect of it, of not just adding to the landfill, but really how does this align with some of our sustainability goals? And I'm not sure if you could speak to that as well. I know Neil Denton is not here at the moment, but if you might be able to speak to how this aligns with our sustainability plan, that would be helpful as well.
Generally, that's a goal at the wastewater treatment facility. We're right now generating electricity with our solar fields. We also just installed 2 cogen generators, which will use biogas off of our digesters to generate more electricity. Once those 2 units come online, we should be producing greater than 70% of our own electrical use.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That was my only question.
Thank you. Other questions? Yeah, Councilor Lee Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Herbrand, so on the compost, does any of the final product have to be disposed of, or for the most part, is it all being getting?
We have adequate demand to get rid of everything we produce.
You have had?
Yes.
So generating the compost is definitely a good outlet for us. In regards to the equipment that's currently being used, are these new units being purchased to replace 2 older ones that are something wrong with them, or?
Yes, we have several of them now. Just recently, the 2 that we were using at the compost facility both broke down, and we had to rent a unit in order to continue our operations there. So we are in a dire need for this equipment, because right now we're operating on rental units.
So I'm assuming the rental units are, do you know what the cost is of that per day or per week or per month?
I do not have that figure.
It would seem to me that obviously when you need equipment to do a process, what would be the downfall that if you do have broken equipment, non-usable equipment, does that put the rest of the process behind and create other issues?
It would force us to continue to use rental units. We would need these units to operate. They're not just used at the compost facility. That's where they're primarily used, but they're also used elsewhere in the plant.
So it's a shared piece of equipment?
It's all within the wastewater management division, but it's used throughout the plant, yes.
Okay. Do you know what the life expectancy of these are, the new units?
I would say 15 to 20 years.
15 to 20 years amortized. Thank you. Those are all the questions I have.
Thank you, sir. Other questions? All right, we have a motion, we have a second, we've had discussion. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Yes. Councilor Chavez?
Yes.
Councilor Lee Garcia?
Yes.
Councilor Michael Garcia?
Yes.
Councilor Lindell?
Yes.
Councilor Rivera?
Yes.
Councilor Romero Worth?
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal?
Yes.
Councilor Cassett?
Yes.
Mayor Weber?
Yes.
Motion has been approved.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Madam Clerk, can you take us to the next item now?
Yes, the next item is item F. It was pulled by Councilor Garcia and Lindell. It's a request for approval of a professional service agreement in the amount of $3,096,000 excluding NMGORT for accounting services, year-end close and audit preparation for 1 year with the option to renew up to 4 years pursuant to RFP 22-47-P. Ms. Joanne Lovato, our contracts manager, is available for this item.
And I believe our
Interim finance director is.
finance director is making her way to the mic. Can I get a motion and then we'll go to discussion?
To approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilor Michael Garcia and a second from Councilor Romero Worth. And both Councilor Garcia and Councilor Lindell were asking for the opportunity to discuss this. Councilor Lindell, you want to take the microphone?
Sure. Thank you for being here tonight. I talked about this in finance, and I didn't really like the way, I don't really like the way that this contract is put together for us. The amount of $3 million over the course of 4 years, you were here when we talked about this, but I have to go back over it again. It concerns me that, first of all, the $3 million concerns me that we have to spend that much on outside accounting services, and that we're in, I know it's renewable, but it's still asking for 4 years. The idea being that, well, we probably aren't going to use $3 million each year. My concern is that if we put $3 million in the checkbook, that we do spend $3 million. And part of that $3 million that I just am not able to support is $30,000 per month of travel fees. That just makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever, that in that 12-month contract over the course of 4 years that we have $30,000 a month for travel. It doesn't seem to me that we should agree to a contract with that amount of money in it. And I don't feel like there's a question in this for you. It's more of a comment. I know that we're trying to get this moving and that we needed to hire a group, but I cannot find comfort with this. I cannot find a way that if I were running an enterprise that I would agree to that. And I know that we have time constraints on getting this group on board and getting going for the next audit, but that just is so glaring to me that I can't support this. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilor Garcia. Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And, thank you, Acting Director Lotero. I guess given the comments from my colleague, let's first focus on the $30,000 for travel. Whereabouts would staff be traveling from to Santa Fe to support the work that's being contracted for?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Garcia, I believe that they'll be traveling from Albuquerque, and I would just stress that the amounts in the contract are up to that amount. So we do have some control over travel and how much we're actually going to engage and spend on these contracts.
Okay, so given that, and it's a potential 3-year up to $30,000, so it's potentially $10,000 a year in travel. With that being said, I'm assuming they would be traveling by vehicle, not by any other mode of transportation. I know Rail Runner runs, there's buses. I'm assuming they wouldn't be taking charter planes down here. So it would be mainly with gasoline costs, or I'm assuming.
Mayor Weber, Councilor Garcia, yes, that's correct.
I believe the city manager wants to weigh in on this, Councilor, if you give him the floor.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Garcia, thank you for the question. A few things I want to sort of point out, one of which is this $30,000 a month category isn't limited just to travel. It's also for software and technology needs, and so it's broader than just travel, okay? At the same time, as I understand it from our finance staff, is that the way in which this contract is going to be procured is going to be on a month-by-month basis. So there will be an opportunity for the finance team every month to look at what expenses have been incurred on behalf of this contract and how much has been done. And I don't want to contradict the acting finance director, but my understanding is that there might also be some national travel from consultants outside the Albuquerque area, and so they may, while they won't be on charter planes, may need to be on planes, stay in hotels, and do some other things. And so I think there will be some mechanisms here for some accountability around the up to $30,000 that won't have to be spent every month. The other component I just want to flag real quick based off Councilor Lindell's comment while I have the microphone is that, just to remind, this last year before I came on board, we had 4 consultants hired that were doing this amount of work. And I think the contract was in the range, totally, the amount of money spent was around $2.5 million for the consulting work that we're talking about. So this is more than that, but it's in the range. And ultimately, the long-term goal that we have, as I mentioned at the last council meeting that we had, we're in the process of trying to hire a full-time finance director. And one of the primary duties of that finance director will be to build out our finance staff, including the accounting team, and so that we will be able to wean ourselves off these contracts in future years and not have to put this sort of contract before you. Okay? Thank you for the time.
Thank you for the clarification, City Manager Blair, because that does provide additional context if folks are going to be traveling in from out of Santa Fe, because they've got not only the travel costs, but the per diem costs, hotel, food, all of that. So that does add up very quickly, and especially if somebody's traveling from a great distance, such as the East Coast. And so I see, and I understand the concern for $10,000, but if you're bringing in a group of consultants, that can eat it up in one fell swoop. I mean, I used to travel to DC, and it cost me nearly $4,000 every time I went out there, between per diem, hotel, and transportation. So I understand that, but I think that's the effect of not being fully staffed. This is where a lot of these costs, and I guess this brings me to my questions. How much of this is due to having a low vacancy rate?
Mayor Weber, Councilor Garcia, I would say it's more than, if we have consistently had about a 40% vacancy rate for the past several years. I think that's a major issue. I think that one of the things that we addressed, Councilor Romero pointed out earlier, is that, we have made great strides. Just closing the fiscal year in a timely fashion, that's a huge accomplishment. That will make doing the 22 audit that much easier, right? Doing monthly closes rather than having everything build up and we're all scrambling to get everything closed for the fiscal year in 1 month. That was a major undertaking. So I think that, yes, some of it is staffing shortages, but some of it is our internal process.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So if we were fully staffed, would we need the support?
Mayor Weber, Councilor Garcia, my goal, I'm the interim, I'm not actually the finance director at the moment. My goal going forward is to bring on staff. I think it was a critical hire when we brought in Mr. Bajarano with his depth of experience. He's been there, done that. So we know that he has the skill set necessary to get us back on the right track. And unfortunately, right now in this market, it's very difficult to recruit and hire people. We will post things repeatedly. We don't always get appropriate candidates. But yes, that is definitely our goal we may not need this contract for 4 years. We did it for 4 years, so if we had it if we needed it. My goal would be to get us through the 22 audit and see where we're at and see how much, I do not anticipate needing the $3 million for 23, just because we're doing monthly closes, we're changing our processes, we're cleaning things up.
Okay. And so I guess a follow-up to that is, looking towards the future with the hopes and goals and ambitions that you have to be fully staffed or increase this vacancy or increase the positions that you're being filled. My understanding is we're budgeting over $1 million per year for this, and with what you're saying is your hopes are that number would decrease over the years. So with that being said, is there an option for us to go back to CLA to ask for an amendment to the contract based off of the need that's due at the time due to the staffing kind of capacity has been met and we need less and less of their service?
Mayor Weber, Councilor Garcia, that is why the contract is written for an up to amount, so we can spend $10,000 or we can spend the $3 million. right? We're only going to utilize them on an as-needed basis. So over the course of at least the next 2 years, my vision is that that amount will be decreasing.
Right. I understand that, but to address some of the concerns that my colleague had in regards to setting the ceiling, so to speak, is there an opportunity for us to go back and amend the contract to lower that ceiling based off of the capacity that might have grown within the finance department?
I would have to defer to the CPO on what the methodology, if we'd have to go out to RFP and those issues again. But I would strongly encourage you, in light of, the delay on 21, we're trying to do 2 audits consecutively to get them 22 in on time, that we not take any more time to delay this and go back for amendments or go back for another RFP.
Okay. Can somebody answer? I mean, would somebody be able to answer that tonight? I mean,
I think the city attorney has her hand up.
Mayor Weber, Councilor Garcia, if we did amendments in line with what our RFP stated and in line with what the proposal and response was, so for example, we wouldn't be changing their hourly rates at that point, most likely, or anything else they were judged on. I don't know if that's a good example or not, because I wasn't involved in the evaluation, but any elements that were part of the criteria that we evaluated them on, we could not modify that or the scope that we went out to bid for or for proposals on. But we could amend the contract in line with those 2 parameters.
okay, so I guess to make it simple, could we amend the contract to amend the available dollar amount?
Mayor Weber, Councilor, yes.
Okay, thank you. And then I guess last question, I know the answer, but just for the public to make sure they're well aware, this is solely for fiscal year 22 and beyond, nothing with fiscal year 21, which is currently past due.
Mayor Weber, Councilor Garcia, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you, Director Lotero. I appreciate all the clarification you're able to provide tonight.
Thank you. Councilor Rivera and then Councilor Cassett? No? Councilor Romero.
Thank you. Just to clarify on the contract, we could change the amount as the city attorney recommended, but then wouldn't it have to go back to the group that won the bid, and they would have to agree to the changes?
Mayor Weber, Councilor, yes.
So if they didn't agree, then that would create the delays that you just spoke about. And then if they didn't agree, we would have to either come back with the original or go back to RFP?
Mayor Weber, Councilor, if there's an amendment the city wants that the contractor doesn't agree to, we would either stick with the existing contract or we can terminate. There's a pretty healthy termination clause, 30 days notice. And if we needed additional services still, then we would have to figure out the next procurement option, which would probably be an RFP.
So we'd start the process all over again
Right.
after 30 days.
Mayor Weber, Councilor, not clear that the process would have to be delayed, but we wouldn't be able to enter a new contract likely.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify that. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Great, thank you. Councilor Merrill.
Thank you, Mayor. And I guess I would just caution us about the need to do this. And I recognize my colleague is uncomfortable with the fact that it seems like we have more than we need. But I will say that we need this contract and we need our staff focused on the job at hand, which is getting our processes changed and getting our books in order so that we can have on-time audits. And I would hate for us to do work that really isn't necessary when we have so much work that we absolutely have to get right and done. This, again, is an up-to contract, and that's very important. We don't have to spend the $3 million, and in fact, our history tells us that we will spend far less, and we are hearing our interim finance director say that as we hire more staff, we will bring that cost down even further. And I guess I would ask Interim Director Lotero, part of the reason why you've put out to bid, or you've put out, I forget the lingo, you've put out job postings on these positions and haven't gotten the responses you need, is that these skills are in pretty high demand. Isn't that correct?
Mayor Weber, Councilor Romero Worth, yes, that's correct. It's very difficult to hire finance staff, especially accountants in the current time.
Right. So I think in this environment, we need to work really hard to try to beef up our accounting team. But we also need this contract, and we need it soon, because we want to stay on track. We want to get these audits done correctly and on time. And I guess the other thing I didn't mention when Mr. Bajarano was up here is emphasizing what a big deal it is for us to be able to work simultaneously on the FY21 and the FY22 audits. That the state auditor is allowing us to do that work simultaneously rather than, having to finish FY21 before we do FY22. So I think we absolutely need the support, and this contract is very important. And I think, certainly staff is hearing the concerns, and we can, if we ever have to do something like this again, I'm sure they will take the message that folks are uncomfortable with certain things to heart. But at this point, I would hate for us to waste time or staff time on things that don't really need to be done. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Rivera.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one last comment, and I agree with my colleague, Councilwoman Romero Worth. But some of the other, under normal circumstances, I don't think I would be in favor of this contract. I think it's very high, very top-loaded, and I get it. But I think getting back on track with audits is so important. Look at all the projects that we have, even on the ICIP list tonight. We can't go out to bond until the audit is complete. There are departments that are waiting to apply for grants until the audits are complete. So this is important to many different departments and to future funding sources for the city. So I'm willing to allow staff, and I trust that they will make best use of the money and make sure that the contractor isn't overspending or overextending their services. So thank you, Mayor. Just want to make that comment.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Councilwoman Villarreal.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of questions. We talked about this in finance, but just so maybe the public can understand how the procurement process works. There were 6 bids submitted, or 6 proposals. And so what does the selection process look like? We have criteria. Is that correct? And maybe if you can share what criteria we follow, or at least for this particular contract, what were some of the criterion that we followed to evaluate?
Mayor Weber, Councilor Villarreal, we look at things, cost is always an element of any evaluation. The hourly rate, the staffing levels, those are probably the 3 main items. Their experience, they provide references, all of those kinds of things are taken into consideration.
And then we have a committee. I can't remember what you can share with the committee, but there are folks that understand what our needs are. Can you say something about that?
Mayor Weber, Councilor Villarreal, yes, we have a RFP committee who reviews this and does the scoring, and they have a manager who oversees the process, and then they do an actual report.
And that's city staff?
Yes.
All in finance, or?
For this type of contract, yes, it's definitely people in
finance. Yeah, I guess the one thing I did want to say was when the last few years that we were late and just questioning about how many contracts. That bothered me a lot. There were so many contracts out there, we couldn't keep track of them. It was just too hard to keep track of them. So consolidating to me makes sense. We were already spending quite a bit of money with all those other contracts out there. And I think all of us prefer if we had staff to fill those roles. And I understand that, our challenges. I also, it's kind of a different team now. And so I think that may help us, I hope. So I guess this is a big contract, and you all will be scrutinizing them very closely, and I think we will too. So, and I feel better about the fact that we can adjust it if we decide not to use all the funding, if we decide, we end up hiring folks and they can fulfill those roles, then we can start decreasing that. So I feel hopeful that that will work for us and for staff. It's a lot of heavy lifting for you all too, trying to maintain this and then also do the work at hand. So thank you for continuously working and striving hard on this. And I know, we scrutinize things and there's a reason for it. And I just want us to get through this hump and move on to fiscal year 22, and then really it just affects everybody in the city and all the work that you all are doing and staff and departments. So the sooner we get this in place, the better off we all are. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Lee Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. I think what I heard from City Attorney McSherry was that there would be a 30-day out if there was, for any reason, having to retract the contract. Are there any caveats or penalties for getting out of the contract if that was the case?
Mayor, Councilor Garcia, we would have to pay for new work that's completed, and let me pull up the language, and if Alexis knows it off the top of her head. I have it here. So it's on page 4 of the contract in the packet. The city's sole liability upon such termination shall be to pay for acceptable work performed prior to the receipt of the notice of termination. So we would pay for work that was completed, but we would give 30 days notice that the contract would be over.
Okay, so there's not a penalty or an exit out?
Mayor, Councilor Garcia, no.
Okay, thank you. And once again, I think I too am not as comfortable with the price tag, but given our circumstances, it's something that I think we really do need to move forward with the hope in the future that the practices that we're working on and month-end closing and all the stops that we need to be doing every month and every end of the year helps us out. So I really do appreciate the work on this, and those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Very good. We have a hand from the city attorney.
Mayor, councilors, I do recommend that we make the motion contingent upon the budget adjustment that will be necessary for this contract.
All right, we need an amendment to the motion. Would somebody be inclined to make the approval
can
contingent?
I say so moved, or do I have to do something more elaborate?
Mayor, Councilor Romero-Worth, I guess the proposal would be to amend the main motion to add a contingency for the budget adjustment in the amount required.
I move to...
Does she need to type that out?
No, wait, now I've forgotten. I move to amend the main motion to allow for a budget adjustment to make it contingent upon a budget adjustment in the amount necessary.
Second, if that was the correct question.
That's the correct amendment, yeah.
And Mayor, Councilor, just to clarify, we're not amending the contract or anything. This is just a slight modification to
the motion.
Of the motion, right? So we're not amending
the language in the
contract itself, right?
Okay. And so, Councilor Michael Garcia, your hand's up, sir.
I believe I made the motion, so just to make sure we're in legal, good standing, I'm happy to make that. I just don't want us to go back and, because it was my recollection.
I'm amending your motion. So we'll have to vote on my motion amending your motion, and then we'll go back to your motion.
Okay.
So is there, I understand the city attorney's point. It's a good, God bless you, sir. It's a good catch. Is there any more discussion about the amendment to the main motion? If not, could the clerk call the roll on the amendment?
And can we just be clear, we're voting on the amendment to the motion, right?
Correct. This is the amendment to the main motion.
Do you want me to state that just for further clarification? I think everyone's on the same page now. Okay. Counselor Michael Garcia?
Yes.
Counselor Lindell?
Yes.
Counselor Rivera?
Yes.
Counselor Merworth?
Yes.
Counselor Menavia-Real?
Yes.
Counselor Cassett?
Yes.
Counselor Chavez?
Yes.
Counselor Lee Garcia?
Yes.
Mayor Weber?
Yes.
The amendment has been approved.
So we have the main motion as amended. And is there more discussion of the main motion as amended? And let's call the roll on the main motion as amended.
Counselor Lee Garcia?
Yes.
Counselor Michael Garcia?
Yes.
Counselor Lindell? Counselor Rivera?
Yes.
Counselor Merworth?
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal?
Yes.
Counselor Cassett?
Yes.
Counselor Chavez?
Yes.
Mayor Weber?
Yes.
Motion has been approved.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your support and your testimony. Could you take us to the next item then, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mayor. The next item is item G. It was pulled by Counselor Rivera and Counselor Cassett. It's consideration of a resolution sponsored by Counselor Rivera adopting the 2024 through 2028 Infrastructure Capital Improvements Plan, also known as ICIP. And our Public Works Director, Regina Wheeler, is available for this item.
Move for approval.
There's a motion to approve.
Second?
There's a second. That said, Councilor Rivera, you and Councilor Cassett both had asked to take this off of consent, so let me turn it over to Councilor Rivera to speak to the item as it is, and then as you would propose an amendment.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I bring up the amendment, I just wanted to thank staff, Director Wheeler, Director Ochoa, who really worked on coming up with really some ideas and some other funding sources that would support the amendment. And in discussing this or in talking about it, one of the concerns or one of the ideas was to possibly replace MRC with libraries. And it doesn't take long to figure out that staff is very engaged in all these projects as well. And what is important to us is also important to them. When you start trying to move things around, it really hits not only to us, all of us as counselors, but also to staff as well. So I really wanted to take a moment to appreciate staff and all the work that went into this. With that, I have an amendment along with Councilwoman Cassett and Councilor Michael Garcia, which is in your packet. It reads, in the 2020-24 through 2028 Infrastructure Capital Improvement Plan, attached to the resolution, place project ID 40054, MRC Soccer Valley expansion into rank number 005, and make project ID 36143 permanent and transitional housing to end homelessness number 006, and make project number 39891 the Acequia Trail extension Autowi de la Cieneguita number 063. So this is, in essence, putting MRC in place number 5, making it one of our top 5, moving the permanent and transitional housing to number 6, and then because the ICIP list is so difficult to manage and to change numbers around, it would just put number 6 into where MRC used to be. So that's the plan, and again, we'd like to thank Director Wheeler and Director Ochoa.
Want to make that as a motion, sir?
Make a motion to approve this amendment.
Second.
There's a motion to approve the amendment in the packet regarding the elevation of the Soccer Valley expansion to the 5th place on the list, and then this And there's a second. Counselor Cassidy.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. And I also want to really thank Councilor Rivera, who spent a lot of time yesterday working with staff to identify an opportunity to move the MRC Soccer Valley into the number 5 slot. And of course, staff for all of your problem solving along with Councilor Rivera and Maria Sanchez Tucker as well. And really appreciate it. We know that it's really how we balance these priorities is hard. I do want to go a little bit into why we are suggesting this change. There is an anonymous donor who will match the city $3 million for the completion of the Soccer Valley Master Plan, but it is a time-limited offer. And so really trying to leverage these additional funds that can go into completing this project. And this is one of the ways that the city can bring in our portion of that money so that we really can complete the Soccer Valley Master Plan, which I believe has been in the works for a decade, more? Since 2014, almost a decade. So, and then when we were looking at the other items that were in the top 5 and what might be other funding sources that would be more readily available for some of these, and the reason that we landed on the permanent and transitional housing to end homelessness is that there does appear to be some pretty viable other funding sources, and I would appreciate it if either Director Wheeler or Director Ochoa would be able to speak to those, because we know that this is still a key priority in the city. This is still an issue that we are very committed to solving. So even though we are bumping it to number 6 on the ICIP list, it does not mean that we are abandoning our efforts to find funding in order to really be addressing this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Cassett. Yes, thanks for the opportunity to address that. And appreciation to Councilor Rivera and all who are working to make our priorities viable and clear and meaningful, and appreciate your concern for staff's concern. So thanks. We have identified, first of all, our work on homelessness is very collaborative. We are part of an initiative called Santa Fe Housing Initiative, S3. It's our local Built for Zero initiative. It's made up of partners from foundations such as Quorum Foundation, which has been a great leader in the work on the foundation level, as well as the county. And we have a coordinator for this effort. We meet on many different levels, from the ground level providers to the funders to the people who do street outreach. Anyhow, this group is working very intensively at identifying both hotels that could be converted for transitional housing and permanent supportive housing, as well as an array of other options. We are aware of an opportunity at the state, as the state is also recognizing the need for increased resources in this area. There's a $10 million opportunity for the entire state, but we have hopes of applying for that funding. I also talked earlier today to our city attorney about the potential use of some of our opioid settlement funds, which is new information, but many of the folks that are living out on the streets suffer from substance use disorder. So this would be a very appropriate use of some of the funds coming our way from those settlements. And we've been in conversation with other foundations who are very impressed with the work in Santa Fe, the collaborative work and the progress we've made, although of course we have much farther to go. So I'm personally comfortable, as is my staff, with bumping homelessness to number 6, in large part because libraries are great, and we don't want to give up our libraries. I mean, there's a little trading going on here with the ICIP priority list, but I want to, if I could, I would love to give our former library director, now community services director, just a minute to talk about the importance of the Central Library at Midtown. Is that possible?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Maria Sanchez Tucker.
Thank you, Director Ochoa, and thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, thank you for your support of a new central library for the community. This is truly a gift that we can give to the community. It's the one free space, the place of culture and knowledge for the city that we have this wonderful opportunity to take advantage of and really start planning what a modern public library will be for this wonderful city. So thank you for your support of that. I'm really looking forward to getting started on the assessment process and building something for the community that's for everyone and that supports education, supports growth, and supports technology and our community coming together. So thank you very much.
You. Anything else, Councilor Cassidy?
Yes, actually. Just wanted to make a comment again about, with MRC and the importance of building out Soccer Valley. It's not, obviously this financial opportunity is key, but as we really think about kind of this broader scope, I mean, one of the things that we've been talking about with homelessness and with substance abuse is how do we start with prevention? And I do see Soccer Valley and the opportunities, the recreational opportunities for youth that would be presented by the expansion of Soccer Valley, as well as the recreation for adults and that kind of social cohesion, and how important that social cohesion really is for individuals across the lifespan to really make sure that they are able to stay healthy, to hopefully prevent them from falling into some of these patterns that we know can later lead to these broader interests. From that really broad public health perspective that I really like to take, just the importance that soccer can have for social and physical health for many members of our community. And so I really see this project as an opportunity to provide more of those resources. And it sounds like Director Ochoa would like to, or looks like you'd like to hop onto this.
I'm just so excited. If I could, 30 seconds on this, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Cassett, fully, wholeheartedly agree. I neglected to say that. When I became Community Services Director, one of the first presentations we had was from a soccer group that served the Southside District 3, and just the importance of that sport for the community, especially for our immigrant community. It's such an important recreational opportunity, but beyond that, as you say, all the other things that it does for positive youth investment and development. So although soccer's are not under community health and safety, we wholeheartedly support the expansion of soccer.
Thank you. And that's all I have. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Let's see, we've got hands up all over. Councilwoman Villarreal has both hands up, so you get the first prize.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the explanation, Councilwoman Cassett, to understand what the change was and the reasoning behind it. Yes, we've been working on Soccer Valley for a long time. They're very organized, too, to be able to make this happen, and I appreciate that they've been diligent about that. Just curious about the amount for Soccer Valley. Does that mean that we would then request a matching amount, the same as the $3 million donation?
Thank you, Mayor Weber, Councilwoman Villarreal. Actually, inside the detailed worksheet, which is in your packet, you'll see that we indicate that we do seek other funding. The $3 million is actually listed there, but we don't indicate that it's been received. I think that would be premature. So that's normally, we take that sort of careful approach to say, yes, we're seeking other funding sources, but nothing has been received. So we do put down the full request of $7.5 million, but there is more detail there available, and certainly more money is better. So that's how we move forward with other funding sources that haven't actually been received.
Got it. And just to clarify, when we were talking about this at the committee level, and the library was of conversation to try to figure out what funding sources were available, you did tell us that it's a significant project. I don't have it at my fingertips, but the amount for the library, sorry, my finger's slow, I don't know what the full amount, and that because the total price tag is $22 million, I think?
That's correct.
That this may not rise to the top of something the legislature would fund. So could you say more about how you then maybe changed the perspective on that? Because that was part of our conversation, and so I was kind of thinking, well, what's the best option for us at the legislature to be able to get funding that's realistic? So could you speak to that a little bit more?
Thank you, Mayor and Councilwoman Villarreal. Yes, actually, you could think of this like the teen center. When we first went to the legislature for the teen center for about $10 million back in 2019, they gave us $1 million. And then we matched it with $1 million of city funds in our budget that year. That gave us $2 million to go full speed ahead on the design and public engagement. And so we did that. Then the next time we requested funding from the legislature, they gave us $3.9 million. And we were able to go then we were able to let the construction contract. And then we asked the legislature for a little bit more money for furniture and equipment, and we got $1.8 million. So I think I kind of see that same roadmap for the library where they could help us now with $1 million or $2 million to start the design so that we could get going. We could have made great progress next year, and we could ask again, and they could help us towards the construction. And so that's kind of the roadmap that I was thinking. The same thing happened with the airport. We got like $850,000 for early planning, then we got $1.5 million for the parking lot, and then we got, boom, the big $9 million for the terminal. And so, and it shaped our project as we went, as we got the legislative money. So I think as the governing body continues to be consistent about the top 5, you can bring those projects all the way to fruition, even if the price tag at the beginning is a little daunting.
Is there other funding that we're considering to leverage the legislative request?
Mayor, Councilwoman Villarreal, of course, all the funding sources at the city's disposal, including the GRT bond, the GO bond, the Infrastructure Jobs Act money and the Inflation Reduction Act money is largely coming through existing funding avenues like NMDOT, FTA, but I'm also watching a very large list of grant opportunities that are being developed and promoted. So we'll be looking at all the opportunities. I think there's state-level funding we'll be watching. Of course, Director Tucker is very well-versed in getting libraries funded, so she'll be looking hard for good money, too.
Great. Thank you for the explanation. That helps to kind of understand the different scenarios we are considering in committee, and I think most of us didn't want to move the library, but then there was talk about maybe other ways to fund it, and then if we're bringing it back in, and it's important to put that in that slot so it can leverage funding from other sources. I think that makes sense. So thank you all for your work on this.
Thank you. Councilor Michael Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As well, want to thank Councilor Rivera for all the efforts you put in yesterday. I know lots of calls and conversations were made. Also want to give thanks to Mr. Nick Smith and Mr. Scott Hushin and everybody else that put forward the proposal that's before us, and which allows us to potentially have the opportunity to finish up the soccer whole master plan. Councilor Cassett spoke about the recreation and all the positive impacts of that. There's also another action that I want to make sure we don't miss, which is the economic development impact that could be had, which if once it's completed, we can be a world-class soccer city in the sense we can hold world-class soccer tournaments here in Santa Fe, which can bring people potentially not only from all over the country, but maybe all over the world, and I think that's what we should be striving towards with this project. So I'm glad it's in front of us. I hope the legislature sees the opportunity before us and fully stands behind it and supports it, and we begin to bring in soccer teams from all over the world here in a couple of years. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I would just add that while we're celebrating recreation for young people, we have not done anything de-escalate our commitment to Swan Park Phase 2. And that's also a commitment to our young people and to the growing Southside and the families that need more play space, more park space, more recreation space. You can imagine Swan Park Phase 2 coming online with the amenities there, growing the offering to the Southside young people, the Southside Teen Center coming online. And I think there's a very optimistic trajectory here that demonstrates the city's commitment to young people and to families as we grow as a community, recognizing that an enormous number of the young people are living in that part of town. We want to invest in Swan Park Phase 2, and we want to make sure that we offer recreational opportunities very close to home. So it's a could potentially be a very successful win-win offering for our young families and outdoor recreation, finding good ways to stay healthy and positively engaged. So thanks for the hard work on this and for bringing opportunities to us. And anonymous gifts are always great. I'm always in favor of seeing them materialize in real time. We have a hand up on the screen. Councilor Chavez, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me, my voice, I'm losing my voice a little. I just wanted to take time to thank you all, my colleagues, for the work. It's really exciting to look at that list and see the top 5 priorities are community-centered. I think a lot of the things that we see as a concern within our community in regards to homelessness or drug abuse, just like Councilor Cassett said, is due to lack of places, healthy places for our community to kind of gather, grow, and thrive together. And so the fact that these priorities are being made is really exciting and will have positive impact in the future. As for the soccer, I'm very excited about the soccer because I had the honor of working with communities in District 3, and I had very many conversations trying to advocate for these kids who are so passionate about the sport, like it's embedded in their culture. It's a deep, deep love they have for the sport. It's like a language they speak. A really beautiful thing to watch, and we haven't had facilities for them to really feel prioritized in something that's very important to them. And I think this is a move in the right direction. So I just wanted to make sure to voice my appreciation for the work on this. Councilor Cassett, Councilor Rivera, Councilor Michael Garcia. So thank you very much. That's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? City Clerk, we have an amendment in front of us.
You, Mayor.
We have a motion to adopt the amendment.
We do. We have a motion on the floor. Councilor Rivera? Yes. Councilor Marworth?
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal?
Yes.
Councilor Cassett?
Yes.
Councilor Chavez?
Yes.
Councilor Lee Garcia?
Yes.
Councilor Michael Garcia?
Yes.
Councilor Lindell? Mayor Weber?
Yes.
The amendment has been approved.
Okay, so we have an amendment to the main motion. Do you have in your records who made the main motion?
Yes, Mayor. The main motion was made by Councilor Rivera with a second by Councilor Cassett.
Okay, so Councilor Rivera's main motion with the second has been amended, and we now have a main motion as amended on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Can you call the roll, please?
Absolutely. Councilor Lindell? Councilor Rivera?
Yes.
Councilor Marworth?
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal?
Yes.
Councilor Cassett?
Yes.
Councilor Chavez?
Yes.
Councilor Lee Garcia?
Yes.
Councilor Michael Garcia?
Yes.
Mayor Weber?
Yes.
Motion has been approved as amended.
Thank you. Can you take us to the next item that was lifted from consent? I believe it's item I on the agenda.
Absolutely. Item I is consideration of a resolution sponsored by Councilor Michael Garcia, Councilor Rivera, Mayor Weber, Councilor Marworth, Councilor Chavez, Councilwoman Villarreal, Councilor Cassett, Councilor Lee Garcia, and Councilor Lindell. It's a resolution updating the terms of approval included in resolution number 2020-24 and 2022-9 to change the permitted locations of banners commemorating hometown heroes from the Cerrillos Road corridor to the rail yard, Guadalupe Street, and the greater downtown area. I will note this was pulled by Councilor Garcia.
Correct. And I'm going to turn it to you, Councilor Garcia. This was previously postponed, and I believe you have something in mind.
Sure. I guess maybe first, I don't know, City Manager, City Attorney McSherry, if we can maybe get clarification, because I know the last time this was before us, the challenge was the resolution in front of us was limiting in the sense that it replaced a proposed location and eliminates an already approved location, and we didn't want to do that. We wanted to keep all locations open, and my understanding is that we would have to introduce a new resolution to accommodate that request.
Mayor Weber, Councilor Garcia, I think an amendment would work to this resolution. Yeah, and we would just make sure that the caption is appropriately noticed, similar to what we did with the Zobra caption, where we added an additional description of that amendment. For a bill, there's additional problems with when we change a caption because we have to put the caption in the newspaper. For a resolution, we can make sure we just comply with the Open Meetings Act, which is the 72 hours. So if it's still within the realm of what the resolution is about and doesn't essentially negate that purpose or modify it to the extent it's not a resolution about what it was originally about, then we can modify the caption to that extent. So if we think, if the governing body thinks it's still within the same intent to essentially change the location of the banners, which is what I think you're describing, from the original one that passed, right, from the Cerrillos specific resolution, then it could be just a modification to the introduced resolution.
Okay, so I guess, this is where I guess I'll need some guidance, because it currently reads, to change the permitted location of banners commemorating hometown heroes from the Cerrillos Road corridor to the rail yard, Guadalupe Street, and the greater downtown area. We don't want to change the location. We want to keep the opportunity for the Cerrillos Road corridors to still be open. So how would you recommend we move forward?
Mayor Weber, Councilor Garcia, if the intent of the resolution is to allow banners to be placed where they can be placed, and if that's what the governing body thinks that's what the intent of that caption is, then whatever still serves that purpose, I think would probably be kosher, essentially. That would be within the spirit of what you've been trying to do. If what you're trying to do is not allow banners on Cerrillos Road, then not having that in the caption would not make sense. But I don't understand that to be the intent of this updated resolution.
Okay, and maybe I'll ask my colleagues' interpretation, because I don't want to move forward if folks don't see it in the same sense. So what I'll do is I'll yield the floor for the moment, Mr. Mayor, and then maybe come back.
Okay, Councilor, and we'll get some more commentary. You might, you may already have a motion in mind, but I would encourage you, if you don't, to think through what an appropriate motion would be at this time while we get the additional input that you've requested. I think that's very appropriate.
And Mayor Weber, Councilor, just a procedural thing. So I think when we made the motion to postpone previously, the main motion was on the floor. So we essentially have that main motion on the floor currently. It was postponed to now. So we can make another motion to postpone if you'd like, or similar.
Got it. I think the question that Councilor Garcia was asking for input on, which is really helpful, is how do we interpret the intent of this resolution? Are we seeking a very broad resolution that would permit, as the city attorney said, banners to go in places where they can work in a broad sense, or are we trying to eliminate Cerrillos Road from consideration? And I'm, as one of the sponsors with you, Councilor, I would say we are not at all intending to limit or eliminate Cerrillos Road. We're trying to be as inclusive and supportive as possible so that as things become clearer, we could not rule anything out that makes sense to the community and the people we're trying to honor. That's my interpretation. I think it's yours too, sir. Is there Councilor Garcia, did you have a procedural motion, or do you want to try to, or would you ask, maybe the city attorney could guide us toward what we could say about, I don't think we're prepared to vote on this tonight. If I'm not hoping I'm not speaking out of turn, since you're the one who asked to have it taken off of consent. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think we're not looking for a vote tonight, but we are looking for an opportunity when there's a ripe time to vote on it. That probably would be as early as next week, but maybe we don't want to name a specific time, just stipulate that when it's ready, we should vote on it.
Mayor Weber, Councilor Garcia. So I think, yes, I'm going to update my last recommendation and make it more based on when you have the information you need. and then you would alert city manager and city clerk, sponsors would, something like that, and postpone until you have the information you need for the amendment.
And at that time, we could call a special meeting or
Right.
put it on the agenda at that time.
That way we don't automatically include it on something, but we also do it as soon as it is possible.
That's helpful, just because, again, I wanted to make sure that we weren't canceling out Cerritos Road, because that's been primarily approved, and I know we've been looking into potentially having that still as an option on the table. And so, I know we're waiting on some critical information, and so with that being said, I guess we postpone till with that information, as you said, is available.
Mayor Weber, Councilor, so I think it's postponed until information about location availability is available. Yeah.
But I'll make the motion in the words of what our city attorney just said. Motion to postpone until the information is available.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there further discussion? Madam City Attorney, are we in good shape? Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Yes. Councilwoman, Councilor Romero Worth?
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal?
Yes.
Councilor Cassett?
Yes.
Councilor Chavez?
Yes.
Councilor Lee Garcia?
Yes.
Councilor Michael Garcia?
Yes.
Councilor Lindell? Councilor Rivera?
Yes.
Mayor Weber?
Yes.
Motion has been approved.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Garcia, for guiding us through a thicket there. It's we're trying not to box ourselves in, but we're trying to play by the rules of the game. So we got to guide ourselves through it, and I think that was well done. Thank you. Madam Clerk, what's next?
Mayor, we're now on to discussion items, action items. 10A is request for approval of a cooperative project agreement in the total amount of $10,117,243 for constructing road improvements on Guadalupe Street, the New Mexico Department of Transportation.
And there's also a A1.
Yes, Mayor. A1 is also request for approval of the budget amendment resolution bar in the total amount of $10,117,243 for constructing road improvements on Guadalupe Street under the Oregon Object Code listed.
Thank you. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilor Villarreal and a second from Councilor Cassett. Discussion, questions for our staff? Do you want to give us a quick update on what this is, and for the public who's listening and watching, give them the benefit of your expertise, please.
Mayor Weber, members of the council, good evening. I'm here before you to request approval of this huge funding agreement from Federal Highway Authority for $10,117,243, which by far is the largest funding we receive for road improvements. After 4 years designing this project, we are entering a new and final phase of this project, which is construction, which will begin in October 2022. Following the complete street design principle, the Guadalupe Street will be reconstructed from Agua Fria Street to Paseo de Peralta. And this reconstruction includes two travel lanes designed for 20 mph speed limit, raised median, center median along most of the corridor, 5-foot bike lanes on both sides of the street, sidewalks of at least 6 feet wide, both sides of the street, 10 intersection treatments, and 11 driveway improvements. The center median and sidewalks will be landscaped, slowing the traffic, improving aesthetics, providing shade, and creating a buffer between motor vehicles, and people. With this new design, all road users, especially the most vulnerable ones, particularly the pedestrians, the bicyclists, motorcycle riders, children, and the elderly, will be accommodated safely. Based on the National Transportation Safety Board study conducted in 2017, the most safe speed for a street is 20 mph. So the Guadalupe Street will be reconstructed with that 20 mph speed limit. The construction cost, which includes construction management, material testing, construction inspectors, is estimated at $10,117,243, which will be provided by the Highway Safety Improvement Program. This is federally funded program, which is administered by NMDOT. This contract terminates October 5, 2023, which coincides with the construction schedule of 1 year. But if we have supply chain issues, we can request to extend the contract for another year. I also request for the governing body to approve the budget amendment resolution, because based on the cooperative agreement, the method of payment for this project is via reimbursement. So we don't impact too much the finance of the city. We will request reimbursement on a monthly basis, because $10 million is a lot of money. With that, I stand for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. That was very thorough. Appreciate that. Also, the fact that we can extend your notice of the supply chain disruption issue is very, very thoughtful, because we know that projects all over the world are being delayed because of that, and to be mindful that we may also be affected is an important footnote to this agreement.
Yes.
Questions at this time? Yes, Councilwoman Villarreal.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have a question. I just wanted to congratulate Ms. Gloria Somas and the rest of the staff who've been working diligently on this project, this long-awaited road improvement project. And it took a lot of patience and just the steps to make sure that there was community input, and then the delays with COVID and whatnot. I think just the fact that we're at this stage of the project is remarkable, and I wanted to thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Move to approve.
We have a motion. We have a motion already. We did that first, but it's always good to try again. No harm in a second motion to approve. We're good to go. Could the clerk please call the roll?
Yes. Councilwoman Villarreal.
Yes.
Councilor Caput.
Yes.
Councilor Chavez.
Yes.
Councilor Lee Garcia.
Yes.
Councilor Michael Garcia.
Yes.
Councilor Lindell. Yes. Councilor Rivera.
Yes.
Councilor Mayor Ward.
Yes.
Mayor Weber.
Yes.
Motion has been approved.
Thank you, and as has been said, congratulations. This is more than just a pothole fix. This is a major reconstruction and upgrade, and it's important that you've shepherded it along for us, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Weber and councilors, and I also wish to thank our Public Works Department Director, Ms. Regina Wheeler. Thank you for all her support. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilor Rivera.
Yeah, Mr. Halsick, did the amendment include A and A1?
The motion, you mean?
The motion, I'm sorry.
Yes.
It did, okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, we don't, yeah, thank you for checking.
Thanks.
I did read both of them in, so.
Thank you. Very good. We have item 11, Madam Clerk.
Yes. Matters from the city manager.
Mr. Blair.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Thank you for the time. A few quick items from me tonight. First is just to let you know that we're making progress on our lobbyist contract with we're making progress on the RFP to hire a new lobbyist. We're in the evaluation status right now, and we're hopeful to have an offer being made either the end of this week or early next week. I know some of you have been asking about the status of that, wanted to flag that for you. Wanted to make sure if you hadn't seen in the newspaper that a new RECC director was hired. An offer was extended to Roberto Lujan, who has currently works at RECC and has been acting as the interim director, has worked previously in Santa Fe at the RECC, worked at Los Alamos' equivalent center. And we're excited to see what he can do to help improve the performance of the folks who are working really hard at the RECC already. Finally, I'm going to rattle off some names for you all real quick, but we're back to starting to acknowledge some of our staff who are celebrating anniversaries here in the city of Santa Fe. We're going to be doing 5-year anniversaries. We were trying to figure out a way to honor them. I suggested having them come here. I got a little pushback about having them wait until we got to matters of the city manager, so they didn't have to stay all night. But we're going to look at ways to do this and for you all to be involved to honor that. As I mentioned, we are going to focus on those who have 5-year anniversaries, but I'm going to flag real quick that our city attorney, Erin McSherry, just crossed her 4-year anniversary. Yay! Some of the 5-year anniversaries that we have, Jesse Bartlett, who works at the Convention Center, Jolene Ulibarri, who works for Senior Services, Oscar Enriquez, who worked with Parks, Trails, and Watershed, are all celebrating their 5-year anniversary. Just crossed the 5-year mark. These folks have all passed the 10-year mark with the city. Jesus Rodriguez with Police Operations, Jerome Archuleta with Fire Operations, Michael Barella with Fire Operations, Jeffrey Maldonado with Fire Operations, William Villarreal with Fire Operations, Paul Lance with Fire Operations, Carlos Sandoval with Fire Operations, and Jason Tapia with Fire Support Services. So a lot of folks there with 10-year anniversaries. The following 4 folks are at their 15-year anniversary mark with the city. Cesar Rodriguez with wastewater, David Webb, or LT Webb as folks know him, with part of our police department, Danette Atencio with utility customer service, and Danette Miller, also with utility customer services, are all at their 15-year mark. We have 2 folks who are celebrating 20 years with the city of Santa Fe. Some guy named Brian Moya, who you might know as our fire chief, just passed his 20 years of service with the city. And Leroy Leva, also, who is with our wastewater team, also crossed 20 years, which is amazing. And while they're not at the 20 or the 5-year mark, I'm going to flag for you that Bernadette Cortez, who works with the fire administration, just hit 28 years with the city of Santa Fe. Randy Lopez, who works with Parks, Trails, and Watershed, just hit 32 years with the city of Santa Fe. And if you can believe it, Mark V. Hill, who works their parking department, is at 33 years with the city of Santa Fe. So thank you to all of them for their service to the city. Yay! And for what they do. We're going to be bringing back ways that the HR department can honor them and give them a little token of appreciation for their service, but we think that's pretty cool that these people are that committed to serving this community here. And that's it for me, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Madam City Attorney, I believe you're next.
Thanks, Mayor. I wanted to give an update on our Office of Records Custodians operations. I think they're becoming a very tightly operating team. In July alone, we got 671 requests for public records. By August 8th, only 150 of those were still open, so they could have been received any time during that month. But obviously, we're on a constantly closing. A vast majority of those are for police records still, which has been the general trend. The good news is that all 3 of our team are now able to access all police records, and they had to go through background checks and everything with fingerprinting and all that to be able to access those databases. So that took a few months to get the other 2 team members on. So Greg Goudelet had been doing that all on his own previously. Huge feat, lots and lots of work. But for all 3 of them, they're all very busy. And we've been doing some good collaborations with other jurisdictions and looking at best practices, and we're hoping to bring some of those ideas and exchange those here in Santa Fe. So we've also spoken with other jurisdictions about what we're doing. We're looking at what other jurisdictions are doing. I think it's working very well. So we're definitely happy to have the extra resources working on that. And then I did want to flag just we're still looking into the best methods to review confidential proposals for procurement. matters, when the governing body is interested in reviewing those, you can always reach out to the procurement team. But the other option is an executive session to discuss those. And that can happen at any committee or governing body, even if a matter isn't listed for a planned executive session. If you know you'd like one, we'll put it on the agenda. That way everyone knows that it's going to happen. You do need a majority vote to go into executive session on that topic, which would be the review of confidential proposals in preparations for awarding a contract for a competitively solicited procurement. Because I'm just talking about this on matters from the city attorney, I can't take questions right now, but I'm happy to have conversations with any individuals on this topic. And I did also send out an email with kind of bulleting out what's confidential, what's not, and really anything that's about the contents of the proposals is what's confidential. So if it reflects what's in there, such as the scoring, that would also be confidential until final award. And then after final award, the whole thing is public. But during the public hearings, the contractor name, the contractor, the contract itself, the scope of work, the compensation, and anything that was in the publicly posted RFP, the request for proposals, that can all be discussed in public. It's just the contents of the proposals, including the scoring that reflects the contents. So, for example, there's certain times where we require something, it's either pass, fail. Can't talk about that because that is the contents of the proposals, whether they included that. And then the score reflects what the quality of the contents of the proposals were. So I'm always happy to discuss, and if there's a meeting where we think there's going to be that type of topic that comes up, I can make sure that either I or one of my team is there to help out with this topic as well. I wasn't aware that was going to be an issue last week. I understand that there were some questions about it, and then I watched the video later to see what they were. So happy to answer any questions about that whenever they come up. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney. Matters from the city clerk.
Mayor, City Councilors, just a few items. One is we are still moving towards our date change for environmental services. We've been putting out a ton of information on everything from social media to print ads, and we do have an interactive map that has been extremely helpful for residents. So if you get any questions, please let us know. I do want to note that the last movie of the season is Friday night. It is our teen movie night, so thank you to Councilor Chavez for her coordination with the Mayor's Youth Advisory Board. We're also doing a pop-up bike lane with the MPO, and the Santa Fe Conservation Trust is doing a community cruise from the rail yard that night. So there'll be a bike bling station, and we are giving out some flashing bike lights as well. And then I do want to note that Bicentennial Pool will be announcing the extension of their hours through September 11th. So they will remain open, and we'll be pushing that out tomorrow. And then I do just want to note that we did hire our records management technician, Christina Montoya, and she has been reviewing all of the documents currently held at our records center. So far, she's reviewed over 5,000 boxes, and we're currently scanning the boxes to determine if they've met their destruction timeline, as well as verifying content. But this is really essential as we move towards technology that'll be scanning documents and then electronic tracking software. So I did just want to note that as we requested in our budget this year funding to modernize our record center, and we are now well underway with that. It is a huge project, but Christina has really been knocking it out of the park, as a matter of fact, for the last few weeks. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. City Manager.
Sir, I forgot one update. May I have a moment to provide that?
Yeah.
No, my time has passed. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, Councilors, one quick update is that our senior staff have met to talk about a matter that's a bit of consternation for some of you in the public, which is about locked doors here in City Hall. What's happening right now is that the Lincoln Street doors are open during the day from 8 to 5, and then at 5 we're directing people to different doors. We're not going to do that anymore. From now on, the single point of entry for all people, whether they're coming at 8 a.m. for an appointment here at City Hall or to get help, or if they're coming at 6 or 7 o'clock for a meeting, the Lincoln doors are going to be the doors that are primarily open. are going to be only doors that are going to be open and unlocked. We are going to be working on signage to direct the public so that if they come to the Marcy doors, they know if you're here for an evening meeting, please go to the Lincoln doors. We're working at possible signage or stanchions that we place near the parking garage to direct people the right direction. And we're trying to simplify, and we'll do what we can both in the public notices around meetings and social media around it once we have the stanchions and the signs in place to direct that everyone goes, that there's one way in and one way out of City Hall, and that's on Lincoln, okay? So, and we're working very closely with our IT team, with the city clerk's team and others to ensure that this is all getting done. And we'll have more updates for you once they get finalized. Thank you, sir.
You bet. Communications from the governing body. Councilor Chavez, you're on the big screen. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually want to highlight a department with my time today. I went with Maria Tucker, our Community Service Director. She took the time to meet me at our Senior Services, and we were able to sit and chat with Gino Rinaldi, the Director Division of Senior Services, and I was just blown away with the work being done. And it's such important work. It's our fastest growing subgroup in our population is our seniors. Makes up a lot of our population, and they are just serving and doing what they can to make sure the needs of that group or that community, so making sure their needs are well met. So I just wanted to share some statistics from the last year. So they provided 7,204 rides. They had registration and outreach of 2,282 senior citizens that are now enrolled with senior services. In regards to nutrition, 1,841 nutritious hot meals have been served, 171,710 meals delivered by Meals on Wheels, 41,729 grab-and-go meals. We have 10,000 volunteers for tutoring and mentoring, 20,000 hours of assistance and friendship provided, 30,000 hours provided by RSVP volunteers. It's just such a large operation, and I feel like we often forget about it. So I did want to thank the admin and activities section, which includes Gino, Luigi, Cara, Albert, Christina, Christy, Tabrina, Saul. Their volunteer program, which is ran by Anya, Teresa, and Erica. Transportation, which has been really challenging, and Gino's often behind the wheels and making sure that seniors are being transported and that they're also receiving meals. That team is Linda, David, Louie, Kathleen, John, Jose, Carlos, Monica. Nutrition, I was able to see the kitchen and the operation they have. And you walk into senior services, and as you're meeting these teams, they care. Like, they were very friendly. They were excited to tell me about their work. They were very respectful to one another, and it's a beautiful team effort to witness there. And so nutrition, that team is Yvette, Carlos, Jonathan, Brenda, Jolene, Enrique, Raymond, Manuel, Gilbert, Gerald, Wanda, Karina. And in-home supports is delivered by Darlene, Lisa, Yesenia, Angela, Mark, Tammy, Sophia, Delilah, Debbie, and Diane. They were also able to hire new employees through COVID, so I wanted to welcome Linda, Jody, Kimberly, Oscar, Michelle, Diana, Rachel, Edwina, Ernest, and Mona. I really wanted to take time today to just highlight that group. I could have spent a lot more time with Gino. I think both Maria and I could have just continued our conversations, hearing about how they make that operation happen the way they do, how they keep our seniors safe, served, and with good company of people who truly care about taking care of them. So I just wanted to highlight senior services tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Appreciate the report. Thank you. Councilor Lee Garcia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to announce a couple of events that are going to happen this coming weekend. And one is going to be a Southside Community Day event that's been put together by the Southwest Santa Fe Advocates. And it's Saturday, August 13th from 1 to 6. And going to be on Jaguar Drive. They're at the corner of Jaguar and Paseo del Sol. across from, what is that, Cesar Chavez Elementary School. And so, invite the community to come out and just, talk about community. Thanks to the people that are putting it together, and Alba Blandis, the crew. Joanna Garcia has really worked hard on this as the chair of that event, so shout out to them. And I'd like to also say it a little bit in Spanish for our community members that are listening, hopefully in Spanish. And a este momento quiero invitarlos a venir a celebrar un día con la comunidad del Southside, el sur del ciudad. Y va a ser en el día 13 de agosto, este sábado, de las 1 hasta las 6. Y va a ser ahí en el lote del otro lado del camino del Cesar Chavez Elementary School. Entonces va a ser ahí en la cruceta del Jaguar en Paseo del Sol. So the other thing I wanted to shout out as well is inviting everybody to the Feria Southside Fair that the Chamber of Commerce is having in collaboration with a few businesses that are putting on an event. Feria Southside South Fair, and that's going to be on August 18th. Fraternal Order of Police, 3300 Calle Maria Luisa, from 4 to 7. So all are welcome to come and be a part of that as well. And igualmente quiero decirle también en español, Feria Southside, únete al evento, promueve de negocio y conectarte con la comunidad del Southside. Shout out to State Farm and Jairo Gutierrez for his work on this as well. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Cassett.
So much, Mr. Mayor. I'm glad that Councilor Lee Garcia also brought this up, the Feria Southside on the 18th. And our Economic Development Department has been very involved in this as well. And the Chamber of Commerce, the Hispanic Chamber, a number of businesses along Airport Road, really focusing on how do we highlight the Airport Road corridor. There's some really incredible businesses on that side of town. And then there also will be helpful resources for small businesses. So if there's any small businesses that are especially looking to establish or grow on the south side, this will be another opportunity for them. I also wanted to highlight, we had previously allocated $900,000 of our ARPA funds towards a job development program for child care providers. And the Santa Fe Community College will be launching this program in the fall. And so if anybody who is interested in entering the early childhood education career and would like to take advantage of this really incredible program that is an accelerated program for them to be able to get their degree, get hands-on experience, where they are also able to earn both a salary and a stipend to assist with moving through this program, please reach out to the Santa Fe Community College, and if any of you know anybody who would be a prime candidate for this program, feel free to send them my way or to send them over to the community college. I'm really excited to see this pilot launch. And last, I have a couple of birthdays coming up in my family. My son's father and very dear friend, Bobby, is having a decade birthday. I won't say which one. Maybe you think he's 20. On this Saturday, August 13th, so I really want to wish him a happy birthday. And then, oh man, now I'm going to cry. My tiny human's turning 4 on August 24th, and I cannot believe that. I think most of you remember when you probably first met him when I was running, and he was 8 months old, and I literally just strapped this kiddo to my chest and started going door to door, and now I can't get him to stay still anywhere. So really excited to celebrate with both of them this month. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Mayor Worth.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to let everyone know we have 3 vacancies on the Water Conservation Committee. and we will be working to advertise those vacancies and accepting nominations, I guess is the right word, for people if you're interested in serving. This is a committee made up of community members that looks at our water conservation programming, very important, and we'll be trying to fill those vacancies as quickly as possible. So Christine Chavez is the head of that office, and you can reach out to her or you can reach out to me if you know of people or if you are interested in serving yourself. And I guess since we're doing personal things, I will just give a shout out to my husband. He and I are celebrating our 32nd wedding anniversary tomorrow. Thank you, Mayor.
Congratulations to you guys. Councilor Lindell, you have the floor. If you want to share your jokes with the rest of us.
I said go for 33. Just very briefly, I happened to be over at Fort Marcy Park this last weekend, helping with a couple of Zozober things, and the pickleball courts were so mobbed and so many people there, and they had this little tent up there, and I'm like, what's going on? And then I look a little further, and there's even a food truck there, and one of my neighbors that participates with that club pulled over when they saw me walking on Gonzales a couple of days later and said they sponsored a little tournament there and they raised $5,000 for Habitat. So that's terrific. You know, applause to that group for doing that, and it looked like a lot of fun. So I'm thinking about that pickleball club.
Thank you, Councilor. Let's go to Councilwoman Villarreal. You have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you, Mayor. I have ink all over my hands at the moment. I just realized my pen exploded. So just want to shout out to the library team. There was one thing that wasn't mentioned about the celebration of the 15th anniversary of the Southside Library. And just wanted to particularly thank Maria Sanchez Tucker for her community-oriented vision. I really appreciate how she, when she came in as library director, to really just like think about things beyond what we were doing. And she also had a very innovative team to help her with that. So I just want to congratulate all of them for always coming up with brilliant and creative ideas to partner and provide diverse programming on the South Side, at the South Side Library, and actually all our libraries. So looking forward to celebrating with them on that this weekend as well. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Michael Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to recognize that school is going to be back in session for a lot of folks. It started for some. I know my eldest daughter started her sophomore year in high school, which makes me feel a lot older than what I physically feel, but hey. So just want to wish all the young folks of our community all the best as they start their school year, and all the drivers, keep an eye out. You might see little kiddos darting in and out of cars to get to class, so just make sure, keep an eye as you're going around school zones, and we don't want any accidents to happen. That's all I got, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Rivera.
It's rough to go last because all the good stuff's taken, but yeah, I want to invite everyone to the Southside Library on Saturday, and also Community Day there on the South Side. A lot going on there in the South Side of Santa Fe, so please, if you have time, please come by. I was also going to wish all our young people a great start to school on the 17th. Pretty exciting for me because then grandkids, and then I have a little more free time, so that's good. I wanted to mention to Ms. McSherry that when you talked about the contracts, I think what happened on Wednesday night is or Monday night was some confusion about really what staff could say and what they could or couldn't put into Prime Gov, I think, and whether it was open to the public or not. So I think some of that needs to be addressed as well with staff. And then to the city manager with regards to the Lincoln entrance, there's a couple council meetings a while back where somebody walked in through this door right here and walked straight through while we were sitting here having a meeting. So I don't know if there's some kind of additional security that can be placed on that door. Really safety, I think, for all of us, I think, really important, especially these days. So, but if the only entrance is going to be Lincoln, they're going to come right through there, and I think this is the way into the chambers. And then thank you for recognizing the employees. In the past, the Employee Benefit Committee used to do that. So I don't know if it's worth reaching out to them and seeing if they have some ideas about how to make it work, and want to make sure that they're not left out of. And they may want to be left out. I don't know. They might be tired of it, but if you're going to please at least reach out to them, that would be great. Thank you, Mayor. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Actually, I'm last. But I appreciate the sentiment, because you're right. All the good stuff, a lot of the good stuff has been taken, and it just is it's a reminder of how many really fun and community-minded events are going on in Santa Fe. It is possible to be busy every single hour of our weekends and evenings because the city is just alive. I wanted to say a few things about that economic development, community engagement, community fun stuff that's going on. I had the great fun of going out today to a LEDA grant award to Parting Stone, a local entrepreneurial startup that's now 3 years old and is about to, by virtue of their LEDA grant, end up with more than 100 employees with a very personal approach to dealing with a very touchy subject, death, and what happens with remains afterward, and the ability to use technology to create a touching commemorative stone of the people or the pet that you're trying to stay connected to. And their success is remarkable, outstanding, and testimony to the entrepreneurial spirit in Santa Fe. There's so many startups succeeding in our community. Maybe at some point we could get our community development director to give us a rundown on the emerging tech community, because it is really burgeoning in Santa Fe, and Parting Stone just happens to be the one that got the LEDA grant recognition from the governor today, but there's a lot going on. To that point, there's an announcement that was just released about a week ago about Northern New Mexico Workforce Integration Network, called WIN, received a $6.4 million award to develop healthcare and skilled trades workers. This started at a meeting over at the convention center some time ago, when the group pulled together every possible interested party to talk about skilled trade development, healthcare development, high-paying jobs. There'll be an event to celebrate this coming up, but that's a large commitment to growing the capability and the jobs available here in northern New Mexico. It was one of 32 award winners out of 509 national applications. That's a huge win. I just clipped this afternoon, our tourism department put out its regular newsletter, but it just continues to demonstrate how Santa Fe does stacked up in the world of tourism and economic growth. We were voted the third best city in the United States, 20th consecutive year on World's Best City list. I mean, if you look at who we're up against, Charleston, South Carolina, population of 800,000. New Orleans, population of 1.2 million. We come in third at 87,000 people, but 2.1 million visitors. That's because people want to come to Santa Fe, because when they come here, they're treated well. It's an amazing place to visit. It's safe. It's fun. There's a lot to do. and Tourism Department continues to do their best to make these experiences available. If you're not aware, they're doing outreach, so there's a shuttle down to Albuquerque for the Balloon Festival. Music Week is upcoming, a way to continue the fun. Music Week starts August 27th, runs through September 3rd. There's just a lot going on, and that doesn't even count the Fiesta, that doesn't count Indian Market, it doesn't count the Zobra. This city is just really doing well. I also want to point out what great work is being done to hire important people in important jobs in our community. Our Human Resources Department did a rapid hire at the GCCC. 20 offer letters went out to the Public Utilities Department to try to staff up people in all parts of that department, from people who can drive heavy equipment to people who can make sure that wastewater and all of the pieces are being attended to. And for something that we're all very conscious of, I attended a swearing in last week of 4 new lateral hires into the police department. We have 4 cadets at the academy, and this week 7 more lateral hires were given offers to join the Santa Fe Police Department. So if you do the math, 4 in the academy, 4 lateral hires already sworn in, 7 that will be part of our team come mid-September. We are really making significant strides with the offers that are going out, the advantages to work in the city, the investments in technology, in vehicles, the attraction of working in a very forward-looking police department. I think we can all take a great deal of satisfaction that we're seeing people wanting to come work in the Santa Fe Police Department at a time when it's one of the most competitive jobs to try to get people all over the country. So shout out to Chief Joy and to Director Ochoa for attracting and bringing talent into the police department. It's a tough, heavy lift, but they're really seeing results, and I think we're all grateful to them for that. So thank you for the opportunity to do that check-in. I appreciate it. Madam?
Mayor,
Yes,
can I have one more?
Yeah, Councilor.
I just want to give a shout out. I think everyone would agree to Melissa McDonald. There was a concert at Swan Park this past weekend. It was beautiful, well attended. But I did get one complaint about the infield, the weeds growing in the infield on the baseball field. So I gave her a call on Monday, thanked her for the great work. By that evening, the weeds were already taken care of. So she's remarkable at what she does, and it's just nice to be able to call constituents and then have them reach out to me that same day and say thanks. It was already taken care of, so that's much appreciated. So if you can give a shout out, Mr. City Manager, to Melissa McDonald, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you. With that, Madam Clerk, let's go to item 15A, please.
Yes, item 15A is introduction of resolution sponsored by Councilor Cassett, Councilwoman Villarreal, Councilor Michael Garcia, and Councilor Chavez. It's a resolution advancing complete streets as a proven countermeasure to provide safer and more equitable transportation improvements in the Santa Fe metropolitan planning area while reducing the impacts of climate change.
This is an introduction of legislation. Councilor Cassett, do you want to speak to it? You're the first name on the list, but everybody is given an opportunity.
All right, I'd be happy to speak to this. So this resolution really, as it states, we're really recommitting the dedication of the city to complete streets and discussing how, as we move forward with some of the new planning opportunities coming forward through land use, updates through Chapter 14, the multimodal transit plan, that really those are informed by and are incorporating complete streets into those regulations, so that as we continue to develop as a city, we are looking at how we move around the city, not just currently, but how would we like this city to develop in terms of our transit options, and making sure that we are a city that options for individual cars as well as pedestrian, biking, public transit, are all really considered and promoted, and especially as we start to look at climate change and the impact of climate change, maybe even starting to create a scenario where it becomes much more possible and probable for individuals who either for economic reasons or environmental reasons or personal, whatever it is, that they really can use alternative modes of transportation safely and efficiently to be moving around our city. So that's what this resolution does, and you know, it's really step one of how this begins to inform some of the other legislation and changes to our code that will be coming forward over the next few years with some of those processes that have already been laid out to make sure that Complete Streets is a core component of those efforts.
Thank you. Councilwoman Bajarano.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excellent description. The only thing I would add is we did pass this already at MPO, at the Metropolitan Planning Organization Commission. Are we at commission? Committee? Committee. Policy Board. So we did pass that already, and just wanted to mention that Complete Streets as a concept has been around for a long time. This was something we learned in planning school, and it's really just about connectivity and integrating people into spaces and places and considering multimodal opportunities. And essentially it's proactive planning and looking at safety, looking at promoting health and well-being while also supporting social equity and also supporting our environmental, climate change, and sustainability goals. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Michael Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just echo what my colleagues said, but maybe I'll add that this did go through BPAC. It got their stamp of approval and vetting, so I want to give them a shout out, as well as a shout out to city staff, Eric County, for all of his hard work on this as well.
Thank you. And not to be left out, Councilor Chavez.
Thank you, Mayor. I think my colleagues captured everything very well. I will say, you know, in working with senior services a lot, I've been looking at this concept of age-friendly, which Complete Streets really falls into. So I think that, you know, we're headed in the right direction, and including in making it safe and just our city accessible to every member, every type of member in our community. So thank you very much. Thank you for the work. To my co-counselors, I know that they put a lot of work into this, so I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, I think that takes us to item 16.
You are correct, Mayor. Does take us to petitions from the floor, and I don't see anyone in the council chambers, but we do have one individual on Zoom.
Let's open up the Zoom to petitions from the floor.
Ms. Benanato?
Thank you. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I'll speak as quickly as I can. In terms of your budget discussion, I was not really encouraged, because it's the same discussion, maybe different players, but same discussion that's been going on for 4 years. We don't see Las Cruces, Albuquerque, or any other city in New Mexico having the problems to meet their budget requirements as Santa Fe does. I'm happy we have community days, but I do wonder why Charts, the last event, was a community day where it was free raffles and free food. I don't really understand how that plays into their role as they were hired under the contract. And I appreciate Ms. Tucker's efforts at senior services, but I wonder about the pools. We've heard that Fort Marcy pool is not going to open on time because there's a deck problem. We still don't have early morning swim on Mondays and Tuesdays. We have lifeguards working out at 10 o'clock in the morning as opposed to opening the pool, which would help a little bit of congestion when Zoom classes begin at 10:30. Also, I did talk to Ms. McDonald 6 weeks ago and then 2 weeks ago about putting up some non-smoking, no smoking signs on the plaza And really, all I got was a lot of putting off rather than, hey, I'll get on it, and I'm sure we can put up some sign somewhere, because we have people just sitting on the plaza smoking. It makes it, unhealthy, and it also just takes over the whole space for everybody else. And then I also want to say that in terms of tourism, since I'm a tour guide, that I do get a lot of complaints from people who are staying downtown and who are in downtown because of the deafening vehicular noise. It is deafening. This is not about cruising. This is about revving up the engine to a point where you have to hold your ears while the vehicle goes by, and nobody can hear anybody else talking. And then my last thing is the H board. I understand that Flynn Larson is going to resign because she's going into a master's program. She was the historian, which means she has a bachelor's. And as a historian, I have to say that somebody having a bachelor's in history is just that, somebody who has a degree in history. They're not really a historian until they've done years of research and have their research vetted by peers. And so I hope when you pick the next historian for this important board, that you will pick somebody who isn't just fresh out of school and fresh to Santa Fe. And also I have to point out there's some board members who use such tests for passing things as it's a sensitive design. Well, I don't see that at all. And I really resent when these board members decide that they can vote on the spirit of the H board or the H design ordinance rather than what the law actually says. I bet you as a quasi-judicial body are not going to say.
Ms. Benanato, that was time.
Thank you. Anyone else in the Zoom room who wants to speak to the governing body for 2 minutes? No?
No, Mayor, that was the only individual in the waiting room.
Okay, thank you. Could you take us to the next item then, Madam Clerk?
Yes, the next item is appointments, actually. So we had a variety of public hearings that have been postponed, and item 20 is appointments to the Historic District Review Board.
You want to read the names?
I mean...
Did that sound like a question? Would you please read the names?
Yeah. No, it was just a funny pause. I was about to read the name. For our Historic District Review Board, we have Madeline Aguirre Medrano. She is an appointment with a term expiring in January of 2023. Jennifer Berkeley with an appointment term expiring in January of 2023. John Benevue with a reappointment term expiring in January of 2024. Jennifer Benschild with an appointment term expiring in January of 2024. Anthony Gaida with an reappointment, term expiring in January of 2023. Cecilia Rios with a reappointment term ending in January of 2023. And Flynn Larson with a reappointment term expiring in January 2024.
Can I get a motion?
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Is there discussion? Madam Clerk, can you call the roll on the motion, please?
Yes. Councillor Cassett?
Yes.
Councillor Chavez?
Yes.
Councillor Lee Garcia?
Yes.
Councillor Michael Garcia?
Yes.
Councillor Lindell? Councillor Rivera?
Yes.
Councillor Mayor Ward?
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal?
Yes.
Mayor Weber?
Yes.
Right. Motion has been approved. Item 20B is appointments for our Santa Fe River Commission. I'm going to read the names. Patrick Smith is an appointment term ending in February of 2025. Daniel Spitback with an appointment term ending in February of 2025. Andrew Erdman with an appointment term expiring in February of 2025. Michael L. Gonzalez with an appointment term ending in February of 2025. Jacob Line with an appointment term ending in February of 2025. Heidi Klingel with a reappointment term ending in 2025. Rachel Coleman with a reappointment term ending in February of 2025. And then we do have Santa Fe County Commissioner Anna Hansen with a reappointment term expiring in February of 2025.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there discussion? Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Yes, of course. Counselor Chavez?
Yes.
Counselor Lee Garcia?
Yes.
Counselor Michael Garcia?
Yes.
Counselor Lindell?
Yes.
Counselor Rivera? Yes. Counselor Merworth?
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal?
Yes.
Counselor Cassidy?
Yes.
Mayor Weber?
Yes.
Motion has been approved.
Very good. Madam Clerk, any other items on the agenda?
No, sir.
We are adjourned.